Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. Today is Tell It All Tuesday, so thank you so much for joining me. And so we're going to get right into it.
Park. The laughter of kids and the warmth of the sun made him feel alive and happy. While riding his skateboard, Bailey spotted something, a small bird with a hurt wing struggling on the sidewalk. Bailey gently carried the bird home. "Mom, can we help it?" he asked. She smiled. "Yes, let's take care of it together." Every day, Bailey cared for the bird, feeding it and giving it water. Slowly, the bird's strength began to return. The day came for Bailey to set the bird free. Carried it to the park, hoping it was ready to fly again. That night, Bailey thought about the bird. He realized how precious life is, no matter how small. Bailey watched the bird soaring high in the sky. He smiled, knowing he had made a difference. Life is precious. Every small act of kindness makes the world brighter and more meaningful.
Yes, so let's definitely keep that in mind. And with that, you guys know what time it is. It is time to honor God with our body. So let me get it all set up and ready to go. So, God, please guard our mind and our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please protect our ears and help us listen to your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect our eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over my mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help our hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, please protect our reproductive organs and help us to honor you, God, with purity. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect our feet as we walk along your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And that is something we do daily here at Unfiltered Vision News. I'm just trying to make sure I have it all set up before you guys get here. So again, good morning. Thank you so much for joining me here on Tell It All Tuesday. And Spud McKenzie says good morning, and good morning to you as well. And again, I know sometimes you guys might think like, why doesn't she talk to us in the comment section? Because it's only me, and I really do need a moderator. And one day I will have a moderator. One day. And again, thank you so much for joining us. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a video that I came across, and I wasn't aware of this, but I wanted to, because it's Tell It All Tuesday, I wanted to share it with you guys.
Son publicly called out 3 former presidents at the memorial service. No one realized that Trump had made 3 promises to him. Recently, at the memorial service for Jackson, Clinton, Obama, and Biden all delivered eulogies. However, it was unexpected when Jackson's son spoke afterward, stating that they didn't truly know Jackson, and even believed the memorial service had turned into a partisan political platform. Trump immediately came out in support of Jackson's son. He promised to provide at least $20 million in federal community development grants to the Rainbow Coalition, founded by Jackson, aimed at continuing its civil rights, job training, and poverty alleviation programs. Secondly, Trump promised to invite young Jesse to serve as a special advisor on civil rights and community empowerment in the White House, directly participating in federal policymaking to ensure that Jackson's voice for the forgotten would be reflected in policies on employment and education. Finally, Trump promised to restore the national park free entry policy for Martin Luther King Jr. Day and Juneteenth, while maintaining the Patriot Free Day on Trump's birthday to address previous civil rights controversies. However, many netizens pointed out that Trump has never followed through on his promises. What do you think of this?
Well, all we can do is see, right? But how many other one of those presidents, and we'll just say the last 2. Actually, no, we can say all 3 of them. How many of them gave any support to Jesse Jackson while they were in office? I mean, they let him kind of come on the grounds and do things, but what did they ever really do? So it will have yet to see. We'll have yet to see what happens with so many of these olive branches, I should call them, right? Let's see if it comes to pass. But I just wanted to point it out. And so next, we have a video from, uh, actually, nope, let me follow that. Sorry, gotta follow my show notes. We've got to do the trending topics on X, and we're going to start with an older video. And this is where people are really calling for Ilhan Omar's deportation. But what we don't realize, and this was in another video, I'm sorry, there's so many videos, but what they were talking about, I don't know if you guys remember yesterday, the whole ethics committee thing, that debacle where members of Congress voted to not release information on members of Congress who utilize the slush fund basically to pay people off to shut up and not come out with the deviant things that they've done, and they're using our tax dollars to do it. We need to press Congress heavy. I haven't put the names together yet. That will be something I'm going to do this week. I'll probably drop it on Friday so we can definitely pray over the names of these people, that they come forth with their, information and they changed our mind. But this video brought up an important fact. Because they killed all of the other things going on, it also isn't going to release what's going on with Ilhan Omar. You got to remember, she's been under ethics investigation since 2023. That's prior to Trump coming back into office. 2023, Biden's administration was there, and that's when the investigation started. Hasn't come to any fruition. Nothing's happened to her yet. But Nancy Mace brought that subpoena. She's like, we need to subpoena the records of all of these people. She brought it to the floor and it was killed. Sent it to committee where things go to die, right? Just saying. So the December 2025 interview shows Omar calling Trump a racist for labeling her and Somalis garbage, while affirming her community's love for Minnesota as citizens and legal residents. Edited versions online twist her defense into claims that Somalis will defy deportation, tying into Trump's November 2025 end of temporary protected status for Somalis and January 26 ICE raids in Minneapolis, amid unproven rumors of her citizenship fraud and financial probes. The clip highlights sharp divides over immigration enforcement and Minnesota Somali resettlement since the 1990s. And here's my thing. I do think that we need to have mass deportations and denaturalizations, because there are people here in America that just don't align with us. They just don't. They do not. People here illegally need to be deported, period. The end. I do not care. If you have been here 20 years and you are not naturalized, you need to leave. You should not be here illegally for over 5 years. You shouldn't be here illegally, period. You should be immediately turned around and said, okay, you can never apply for citizenship in our country. And that's where I'm at. If you come over here illegally and you are caught and you need to be removed, but I'm just saying, if you come over here illegally trying to get citizenship, it should be a no. You cannot become a citizen, and you can never apply for citizenship ever. Like, you're done. And I think that will deter people from coming over here illegally. The problem is we have NGOs and we have these politicians who just say, hey, we don't have any borders, and we do. And that's a problem. Now, the next topic is apparently a Michigan rep, Smith, testifies on deceased voters reinstated to rolls. Okay, so we've got dead people voting? Okay. During a March 3rd committee hearing on House Bill 4765, Smith testified that deceased individuals from her township were reinstated by the Secretary of State's office and sent mail-in ballot applications, including a relative who died nearly 20 years ago. The bill, which required proof of U.S. citizenship for registration and photo ID at polls, advanced 6-3 along party lines amid Republican calls for tighter rules and Democrat assertions that current safeguards suffice. State officials countered that their qualified voter file matches death records routinely, with federal courts upholding the process, while isolated errors occur but no widespread deceased voting has been found. Y'all are wild in Michigan. Y'all are wild. So let's let's listen to this.
Respectfully, Representative Smith, the fact that there are, in fact, some errors that happen in the system. Every system has errors, and it doesn't mean that there are not safeguards in place. There are safeguards, and you as a clerk, having done many registrations previously, understand that there's a process that you go through. And you can ask NASA. There's no process that doesn't have some error inherent in the system.
Okay, thank you. And you're very right. When I was a clerk, there were lots of errors in the system. That's largely why I am here. I took off a dead voter in my township. And guess what? That dead voter was put back on. Not by me. That was done by the Secretary of State's office. So we need to do a lot of fixing here in our elections. When I was a clerk at Martin Township, there was a family member who at one point was registered at my in-laws' home. And that family member had died nearly 20 years prior. They were put on the rolls at 2020. They were mailed voter application ballots without the authorization to do that. That's the local clerk's job. So I went in there, removed her from the voting rolls because I know firsthand this family member is dead and deceased. Just this past election cycle, lo and behold, that person was put back on the voter rolls and has a card of the early voting location polling that I actually have and can produce. And that's a problem.
And they keep saying, oh, it's just isolated. No, that's not. No, it's not. Stop that. That means it's probably happening more than just in her case. But how many people have enough integrity to say, hey, this is happening. This is an error. What is going on with the Secretary of State's offices in Michigan? What's going on with you guys? Okay. Now, Dublin Imam's Quran clip on jizya tax draws deportation calls. So the clip resurfaced around late 2025, features Al-Qadari and the Al-Mustafa Islamic Center in Blanchardstown discussing Quran 929, which scholars see as a 7th century rule in jizya tax during wartime. Originally from Pakistan and in Ireland since 2004, he has condemned extremism and backed interfaith efforts, but users now label the talk hate speech and call for deportation amid rising anti-immigration tensions. No police or government response has surfaced, highlighting clashes over religious preaching and integration in a country facing record asylum claims. And it's interesting because, yesterday I was like, yeah, Muslims can't play the race game because they're not an ethnicity. And this lets me know why they are really not a religion. Because how are you going to play the race game and you're not an ethnicity, right? How are you like, oh, people, there's Islamophobia? No, there's no phobias. Nobody's afraid of you. Nobody has a fear of you. But you have become and made yourselves in some areas a pariah because of the way you carry out your quote unquote religion. And I'm putting it in air quotes mainly because there are people practicing it in a way that is not a religion. It can't be a political stance and a religion and an ethnicity all at the same time. It doesn't work that way. And even Jewish people try to do that and it still doesn't work. That's why there's the ish. You should either be a Jew or not. Now, you are either a Jew by blood and birthright or you are not. And you can practice Judaism, right? But the Jewish kind of it's weird because it either is that your religion or is that your ethnicity. Which is it? Pick a lane. Pick a lane. That's all I'm saying. Now, this imam in Ireland, Allah orders to kill Christians and Jews. This won't end well. Okay, so let's check this video out.
In the Quran, chapter number 9, verse number 29, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders the Muslims to kill the Christians, Jews, and if they do not surrender, then they have to pay jizya. Jizya is basically protection money. Jizya is a tax. In the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, and after him, when Islam was spreading and the Muslim government was spreading it and the Islamic State was spreading it, so wherever there were Jews and Christians and people who were not believers, for them there was a rule that they have to pay this tax. Since in Islam, according to the Islamic rules, they will be free to worship whoever they want. They will be free, they will have free movement to worship their God. They will be able to build churches. They will be able to build their religious institutes. However, they will have to pay some tax.
Okay, but you got to pay me basically money. So y'all the mob now? You're the mob now. Like those are mob tactics, right? And you just trying to put it under religion to make it look good. Stop it. Those are mob tactics. Sorry. That's what mobsters do. Yeah, you're good. You're good. You just got to pay me a little money and I'll make sure you know that you're good. What? And that's in your Quran, which that's what y'all are doing? Y'all are wild. So, you know, just based on that alone, you can't be here in the United States. You can't be here. Okay? Because your religion actually says it's gonna your Allah, you know, whoever you're worshiping to, orders you to kill Christians and Jews. But no, he's in Ireland. But the book is here too, because we got Muslims here practicing Islam. Interesting how I've never seen the Nation of Islam ever come after anybody like that. So are they practicing like a different Quran than yours? Like I don't understand. Because I've never seen violence from them like that. I've only seen it from people from the Middle East, from like Syria and Iran and Iraq. And, yeah, those other places. Like, what are y'all doing? It's really, really crazy. Seriously. It's bad. It's bad. So now we're going to get into some more of this news. We've got Terrence Howard that, okay, sorry, follow on my show notes. We're going to get into Terrence Howard, and a lot of people don't realize he's actually really smart, and he gets into talking about the U.S. dollar.
Thing that's happening with Iran right now, you know, giving your roots from it. I'm so happy that China came in and said, hey, you guys aren't going to bully them completely like you've been doing before. And as a result, what did Saudi Arabia do? Now Saudi Arabia is no longer selling using U.S. dollars, you know, for their petrol. The U.S. dollar is done now. We've just lost in the 12 months. We've lost 9% of our purchasing power. So if you had $100,000 last year, you only have $91,000 now, and it's steadily declining. 25 countries have jumped onto the BRICS, apart from those other 5 countries. You know, we've got 39% of our world of the finances now no longer being dependent. Only 51% of the world is still using U.S. dollars. And as the dollar crashes, because Trump has a plan, and his plan is if you weaken the dollar, then you can bring manufacturing jobs back over here. But that doesn't work with the tariffs that are being hit outside the world. You know, Canada, we've just imposed a a thing on Canada to where they're not able to use the chip system anymore. They're not able to use U.S. dollars anymore. So what did Canada do? What did Carney do? He set up and said, okay, I'm going to go and work with Beijing. But on top of it, I'm going to ask for the war chest from NATO. I want $12 billion because I've got to deal with an aggressive America. And then on top of it, Canada said, you know what, we're going to do the 12 states that we give electricity to. Every tariff you put on us, we're going to put on the electricity that we were sending down to them. And on top of it, we're not going to give you any of our minerals anymore. You know, we're in a tight little bottleneck that something has to go, and our U.S. dollar, the COMEX, I don't know if you follow silver, what's happening with silver.
Skyrocketed, gold, record-breaking numbers.
All of that, and silver's been suppressed, you know, artificially suppressed for the last 50 years. You know, J.P. Morgan just had to pay $920 million in fines for the suppression of the silver market because of the paper contracts. And now we have a different pricing for paper contracts of silver for futures here in comparison to actual silver in Shanghai. You know, there's there used to be an arbitrage. You buy silver here, you know, for whatever amount, even if it's $71 here, and then you go over to China and you sell it, you know, for the $88 that would have marked over there. And well, now that arbitrage, they're not playing with that anymore because there's no silver in the COMEX. And we use over 1.2 million ounces of silver in all of our electronics. And we use 20 grams of it in solar panels, 50 grams of it in every electric vehicle, in every computer component. And there's only 851 million ounces being produced a year. And most of our silver is coming from byproducts from gold mines, from lead, from zinc, from copper mines. We only get about 20% of our silver from actual silver mines. And China is hoarding it. And out of nowhere, J.P. Morgan, who has been fighting against silver all this time, now they got 750 million ounces of silver. And it's necessary for all of our electronics. So silver has the potential now to go up to being worth thousands of dollars. It will become more even with gold. I think it's like 30 to 1 now, or sometimes it's at 50 to 1. Now it's going to get up to about 13 to 1. So, and typically when the precious metals go up, you know, the stocks are going down. But for a minute, they had the stocks and the precious metals going up at the same time.
Well, I think gold was suppressed for a while because the typical triggers of printing money, all that money we printed during COVID didn't cause gold to move as much. So gold eventually caught up. And I think it's needed to be at 5,000 for a while. I think the 5,000 was inevitable. Now the question is, how much higher can it go?
The more the U.S. dollar weakens, because the U.S. bonds, China just sold $864 billion of its U.S. debt. Japan is selling its U.S. debt. Nobody's buying the bonds, so the yield rate is going to change. And and precious metals is the only thing you can trust now. So silver.
What's your position with Bitcoin? Where are you at with?
Bitcoin is going to die. I don't mess with it.
You think Bitcoin is going to die?
Oh,
you touch nothing with crypto.
I don't touch it.
Tell me why you think it's going to.
Well, I just got a call from somebody a couple of days ago and said, "Hey, if you got 25 million, you know, you can make 75,000. I just want to put it inside of an account to do some stuff." And this is a friend of mine, and I was like, "Do you realize that Bitcoin is still based on fiat? It's still and because the dollar is decreasing in its value, because the uncertainty of war around." Nobody wants their money in something that can be wiped out with a push of a button somewhere. I've stayed free and clear of it because it's been dropping a great deal. I think it's at $61,000 now.
But it went from 18 to 40 to 60 to 125. And it typically goes through the process. If you do a 5-year, if you go to a 5, and by the way, I have less than 1% of my portfolio in Bitcoin, so it's not like I'm a pro Bitcoin guy that's saying this to you. Go to Max, Rob. Go to Max if you look at it. If you look at what the second one looks like as the first one, do you see that?
Yeah.
It looks like a
67.
twin.
Yep.
So that means we got, we may be either at the bottom or it could go a little bit lower. But again, patterns change, but we'll see what happened with that. What concerns you the most? You were saying all these things. My challenge is, if all these years, these presidents did everything to strengthen China. Nixon opened it up, and China went from being nobody to they were worried because Soviet Union was too powerful and they could catch up. So they gave power to China. They opened it up because they wanted China to beat Russia. Well, then China didn't just beat Russia and passed up and became number 2, and now it could potentially compete with us, right?
Oh,
So the number one creator of commerce for these countries has been us. Why? America's been sold by a lot of presidents to other countries. So finally you got a guy that comes in that's like, yeah, I don't know if I like these deals. All these deals favor more the other countries than us. But to be able to put the deals in place is a very hard thing to do and to be able to pull off. He's trying to do it all of it at the same time. There's a 90% chance it's not going to work.
No. Well,
but the 10%, if it does, it protects you and Americans long term. Do you believe that way or no?
well, his ideals and approach would have worked 40 years ago when you had the dollar dependency that every other country, if you wanted to trade something, you had to have US dollars. So it kept our economy stable and strong. We could print as much money as we wanted to because we can always borrow money at very low rates because everybody wanted to do business with us. But now that the US dollar has lost, it's turning into the sterling pound. For 100 years, that was the money thing. But now we can't push the things or use the force that we were using 40, 50 years ago because the dollar is no longer necessary in the world. So we have to take a more diplomatic approach to doing things. I appreciated the strength by which he came out and was like, hey, NATO, you got to pay your fair share. Hey, Canada, you've been taking advantage of us for years, with these trade agreements. China, you're doing the same thing. But we don't have the staying power that we had before. It's a global economy now. So when a major portion of that global economy is being blocked up with trade embargoes and tariffs and all of that, when everybody is talking, now China is like, okay, great. Keep playing your game. I'm going to keep the Belt and Initiative going out there. I'm going to keep giving to these countries that you're turning your back on. I'm going to keep giving to them. I'm going to and not ask them to change their constitution. I'm not going to force them into anything. I'm going to keep things as good as possible with them. China's doing the smart move, because now all of these countries is turning on the U.S. and turning to China. Hey, China, you support us now. Even Greenland, wants to have talks with China. So we have to change our tactics and get back to making friends and being partners on the world stage, and instead of isolation, because the isolation, I love the strength in him, but there's a time for finesse and there's a time for brute force. And what happened in the Straits of Hormuz? Is that right? Yep. Here we're about to pounce on Iran because of Israel not wanting to maintain our power there. But what happens? Well, now China sends its little boat, its ships in there. Russia sends their ships in there, and there's a standoff.
What do you think is going to end up happening?
The U.S. knows that we cannot strike Iran without those ships, all of them being wiped out and starting this world war. There's going to have to be a de-escalation of that, because Iran is no longer just an isolated country without anyone helping it. Now it has the support of our two biggest rivals. And it has the support of everyone. That an enemy of my friend, an enemy of my enemy is my friend. So they're all turning to Russia, like Burkina Faso turned to Russia, to ask for its help. Because why? The colonialists are still trying to move the stuff that they were doing before against Ibrahim Traore, President Traore, who was trying to unify Africa and saying, you know what, you're not going to take my gold and process it in Canada and then take it over and put it in the vaults in France. No, this is the gold that belongs to my people. And they're going to make a stand for their position and their gold. So what does Russia do? Since the U.S. is supporting France in this move, Russia goes and makes alliances with President Ibrahim Traore. Now that the war has just started and pushed off, I look forward to seeing how Russia follows through with supporting that. But I'm like, the African nations are all supposed to gather together, but we are so used to being colonialized, you know, of looking down at the ground and, okay, here comes the Europeans, we've got to, it's like, no, they've been taking advantage of Africa, because in order for the rest of the world to remain fluid, they need to be able to buy cheap and raw materials from Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa has to maintain and have to be impoverished. And then they use all of their things of, we're going to give you some money, but that money is only to for a state and keep regimes in place that's going to allow the continent to continue to be raped. But if any moment Africa stands up and demands a fair place on the stage, then the rest of the world economy is going to completely crash. And France is not allowing that. They tried to get Niger involved, you know, and come in battle. And they tried to get Benin Toga involved to come in. Some of the soldiers in Benin was like, no, I'm not going to attack my brother. But then other soldiers do. So the world is in an unsafe place. What we did in Venezuela.
What'd you think about that? Because that was a pretty surgical
yeah, it's very surgical, but
they had. It didn't turn into the chaotic. And his answer was more the Monroe Doctrine. Let's protect the Western Hemisphere, the Monroe Doctrine, you know, making sure we're good, we're safe. And America became America because we have a history of being an expansionist nation where, hey, we'll buy Florida for $4 or $5 million. Hey, we'll buy, you know, Texas. We'll buy Louisiana. We'll buy Alaska. We'll fight for California and Arizona. We'll take, and now they're talking about, you know, Cuba, and they're talking about, and by the way, I don't know if you saw that or not, but Panama came out with the backing of U.S. Panama came out and says, hey, China,
you're done.
You're done. That's not a bad thing, because if China, I had Christine Oman this week, and I said, you know, now that we know the virus was leaked out of China, right? And they could have done something about it. For many years, they're like, no, you can't say that. It didn't come from China. It came from somewhere else. Well, now we know it came from the Wuhan lab. It's the Wuhan lab. And they could have closed the airports down earlier. You don't think they intentionally did that to leave it open? 7 million people died. The world economy lost $16 trillion. China's not been held accountable yet. You think China's a trusted player?
China didn't work by itself with that. The U.S. was involved with that.
Who was it that was involved from
everybody
was? Not everybody. Who was everybody?
I think a lot of the countries that were complicit with it, the ones that immediately were like, okay, we're going to go into this lockdown. We're going to force this vaccination on everyone. That was a coordinated effort. That didn't happen. Hey, you know, I think you should do this to your citizens.
But I think that was also some of the globalists and some of the establishment folks. There's a play right now. It's not the Republican and the Democrat thing.
No.
It's the globalists that want to make the whole thing a one world, a whole new world, a new world order, whatever they're calling it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Terrence Howard. I'm an actor.
Yeah. So I just wanted to play that because just of the different topics that he was highlighting, because not everybody's talking about it in that perspective. Okay. Now, next, we're going to get into fusion energy. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but this about a couple weeks ago, there was an announcement made where there's been a new merger on the scene.
On Thursday, U.S. President Donald Trump's social media company announced an unusual $6 billion merger with TAE Technologies, a Google-backed nuclear fusion firm. The news that Trump Media, which operates Truth Social, was getting in the nuclear energy business came just days after fusion industry leaders met with representatives of the U.S. Energy Department asking for more federal funding. And that rings some alarm bells, says Peter Lloyds, a professor who heads up the Project on Ethics in Political Communication at the George Washington University.
Anytime a member of the president's family's name is on a commercial enterprise, it raises ethical questions. Are people buying the thing because the president's name is on it? Are people buying Trump-branded products because they think it'll help them get close to the president or that the president will like them more?
The growing electricity needs of the technology industry have revived interest in nuclear power. However, despite decades of efforts, nuclear fusion, often seen as a potentially cleaner and more reliable energy source, has yet to produce a commercially viable reactor. The chief executive of TAE, Michael Binderbauer, was among the leaders who met with U.S. energy officials after the department formed its first ever fusion office.
And the question then becomes, are they going to have a leg up? Is this company going to have a leg up because it is owned in part by a member of the Trump family? Will this company have an unfair competitive advantage when working with the federal government, when trying to get investors on board, because it is very publicly affiliated with President Trump and his family?
After his return to office this year, Trump's close relatives have pursued ventures leveraging his political power and policy shifts. For instance, the Trump family has piled up billions in crypto-related wealth as the president throws his support behind digital financial assets. Greater support from the federal government could potentially boost the value of the fusion investment as well. Trump has 114 million shares in Trump Media, roughly 40% of the company. In the new merger, his ownership stake would be roughly 20%. Trump Media mainly generates ad revenue off of Truth Social and has consistently lost money since it began. Lloyds says one option is for the president to remove his name from the companies to avoid looking improper.
Of course, what the president is doing might be completely on the up and up. But we're at a point in our history where we need to both do and be seen to be doing the most noble thing possible. The most noble thing possible here is probably taking your name off companies that are going to benefit from or even rely on the federal government.
Trump Media Chief Executive Devin Nunes, a former Republican member of Congress, will be co-CEO of the new company, along with TAE Chief Binderbauer. The two, along with Donald Trump Jr., will sit on the merged company's board.
Yeah. So there won't be any conflict of interest there, right? Tongue in cheek, sorry. Just gotta say it. Riding that line, just that line. So I asked if he could find any information regarding this fusion energy. He says, yes, here's the latest information on the fusion energy initiative tied to Donald Trump. So the most prominent effort linked to him is a major private sector push in December 2025. TMTG, which is Trump Media and Technology Group, the parent company of Truth Social, majority owned by President Trump, announced a $6+ billion all-stock merger with TAE. So it's all stock. So it's not necessarily that any money exchange. Now, remember, he's in office. So the question becomes, obviously, he's not running the company. His son is running the company, but how many people are in places where they're making decisions, right, related to him or not related to him? It's California-based fusion company backed by investors like Google, Chevron, and Goldman Sachs. This deal is expected to close mid-2026. Pending approvals, we create one of the world's first publicly traded pure play fusion companies, with TMTG and TAE shareholders each owning roughly 50%. Now, for the leadership, you saw Devin Nunes on camera. Again, he was a former congressman from California, and Nunes already had money. So I don't want anybody thinking, oh, he's poor, he's broke. No, he already had money. He had money before he went into Congress, and he didn't really do much while he was in Congress as far as stock trading and all those things, because he already had money. So that wasn't his driver. So he is the CEO, and TAE CEO, Dr. Michael Binderbauer, will serve as co-CEOs. The board includes Donald Trump Jr. and other independents. So technology, TAE has spent 25 years developing field reversed configuration fusion reactors. They've built and safely operated 5 experimental reactors, hold over 1,600 patents, and employ 400 plus people, including 62 PhDs. The approach aims for smaller, cheaper reactors using advanced fuels, potentially electronic PB11 that produce no meltdown risk, minimal radioactive waste, or proliferation concerns. So power plant plans, the combined company intends to site and begin construction on the world's first utility scale fusion power plant, 50 megawatts in 2026, subject to regulatory approvals. Follow-on plants would scale to 350 to 500 megawatts each. In January 26, they began soliciting sites, minimum 20 acres, grid connected near talent hubs with strong local state support and security, but only in red states. Devin Nunes stated, "We're only going to build this in a red state." So they are looking for Republican states to build in. So that's very interesting that they are picking particular states, not based on land support, so to speak. Like, oh, it might be better over here because of, geographically the weather or whatever. I'm just saying. They're basing it on politics. That's very interesting. So the goals provide abundant, affordable, carbon-free electricity and industrial heat to power AI data centers. Low energy bills revive U.S. manufacturing, ensure energy dominance, especially versus China, and support national defense. Nunes called fusion the most dramatic energy breakthrough since the onset of commercial nuclear energy in the 1950s. So TMTG is committing up to $300 million in cash support during the merger process to accelerate commercialization. Government support under the Trump administration. This private effort aligns with but is separate from broader administration policy. In October 25, the Department of Energy released its fusion science and technology roadmap, which advances President Trump's executive order unleashing American energy. The roadmap's Build, Innovative, Grow strategy aims to deliver commercial fusion power to the grid by mid-2030s through public-private partnerships, closing key tech gaps, okay, and leveraging over $9 billion in existing private investment. It explicitly ties to expanding domestic energy production and U.S. energy dominance. No direct public statement from Donald Trump himself on the TAE merger or specific fusion plans were found in recent searches. His focus has been more on traditional nuclear fission and broader energy dominance. However, TMTG TAE project is widely reported as a high-profile Trump family-linked bet on fusion to meet surging AI-driven power demand. So that's why they're looking for this other energy source. And I'm going to have somebody, hopefully he will be able to make it, on to really talk about the data centers and their effect on us financially and also the effects on the environment. So, context and caveats. Fusion remains pre-commercial. No utility scale plant has yet connected to the grid anywhere in the world, but TAE and the administration are betting on rapid progress. Some ethics watchdogs have raised concerns about potential conflicts given the Trump family's business involvement and federal energy policy, right? Because if the president is passing policy initiatives that benefit this company, yeah, there's a complete conflict of interest. So stop that. On his face, there's a conflict. Even though you're trying to do good, it's messy. It's messy. So let's just say, I'll use myself as an example. I have the fusion technology. And my family or whatever, we're heavily involved and we're doing this and we're working along with the government. And Donald Trump's like, yeah, we definitely want to work along with your family to do this. What conflict of interest is there? There's none, because he and I aren't related, right? And it's a complete business move. But with his company, the one currently, right, over Truth Social, his son's on the board. Nunes has been working with them. It's very incestuous in business terms, right? The conflict, it's not so much the conflict, it's the incestuousness. It is the fact that there's the overlap. It's like your son's on the board. If this had nothing to do with your family, TMTG can't even be a part of the merger to even do this, right? Because whatever policy is put in place, your family's going to be enriched by it, even after you leave office. But we're still acting like there's nothing to see here. And you guys know I'm just going to be fair. I'm not going to, play the, well, this is okay because this is here and we know who he is. He's a businessman. No, I'm not going to play that game with you, because it's in my opinion, it's a complete conflict of interest. It shouldn't be happening. And if anything does happen with the fusion, he has to be out of office before anything can take place. Now, if they're talking about the mid 2030s, it's 2026. He's going to be in office for 2 more years. So are we talking about this isn't going to be in place until after you leave? And if you leave, who's going to make sure that this even is followed through with? And where is that going to leave the American people? Like, yay, we're supposed to get all this energy. Are we going to get it? I'm just saying, right now, it's a bad look. It's like, I know what you're trying to do, but it's such a bad look. It's just so, ugh. So Cajun Lady says, are we finally going to use the free energy, right? It's always been under our feet, the same way the so-called electric companies do, then charge we the people. Right, that part. And good morning, Cajun Lady. It's been a while since I've seen you. Thank you so much for sending your red, white, and blue hearts. And Sincerely Lawless, thank you so much for joining us. And good morning to you too. And Uncle Coolwater, thank you for joining us. And Dorian Watkins says, another stoner. I guess you were possibly referring to Terrence Howard. I'm not sure. And then good morning to JJ1989. Thank you guys so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. Yeah, it'd be nice to not have to pay for the energy that's free. That's right under our feet. But maybe there's a lawsuit we can file. I don't know. It's just a lot. Now, I did also want to look at the U.S. Energy Department, right? Because the Energy Department announces fusion science and technology roadmap to accelerate commercial fusion power. Now, this was in October of last year. The merger that President Trump signed was in December. So this was put in place before that merger was done. So let me make it a little bit bigger because it's even tiny for me. There we go. So the U.S. Department of Energy released its Fusion Science Technology Roadmap, a national strategy to accelerate the development and commercialization of fusion energy on the most rapid responsible timeline in history. The roadmap defines DOE's Build, Innovate, Grow strategy to align public investment and private innovation to deliver commercial fusion power to the grid by the mid 2030s. I mean, I'm glad we're getting alternative uses of energy because we do need it, right? There's always, it's interesting, there's a fight over who gets to the energy first. But to Cajun Lady's point, there's energy that we're paying for that we shouldn't have to pay for, that we should know how to basically conduct ourselves to enrich ourselves as the American people. And that's the issue I think that a lot of people have with government, right? It's always like, well, how can I live off of the backs of the American people? In essence, it's slavery. I don't like it. Some people may not like me using that word, but it is what it is. And Cajun Lady says, it's great to be here. Oh, thank you so much. Like I said, miss you. And I'm not always in the comments, you guys. I'm sorry. If there's a few and I have some space to actually talk to you, then I do. Now, I do want to play one video before our guest comes on. And this one, we're switching gears. It's not so much in the energy. And I've got another, or did I play that? Making sure I'm playing everything and follow it. This one is actually talking about the Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I know we have some in our localities, but the U.S. Chamber of Commerce does something a little bit different. So I wanted to check this out with you guys.
Was a whole lineup of our enemies exposing themselves, chief of which is the United States Chamber of Commerce. You'd think, I got a local chamber of commerce. It's like all the businesses in my community, they get together and talk, and how can they make the entire thing work better? That's not the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It used to be that. It used to be every single local chamber of commerce, and that used to be the national organization. Beginning in the early 80s, it shifted to become the foremost outsourcing multinational representative in the United States. And it's the one organization which has led the lobbying in Congress for every single part of the free trade destructive agenda. In other words, who actually led the lobbying for the WTO? Who led the lobbying for most favored nation status for China? Who led the lobbying to outsource and make things comfortable for American corporations outsourcing the entire industrial supply chain to China? Who set up in China to actually facilitate all of that? It's the United States Chamber of Commerce, which is nominally a Republican Party organization. And you could say that Mitch McConnell, that entire crew in the Senate, lived off the largesse of the United States Chamber of Commerce for all of these years. That's what the president is fighting through his reimposition of the American system and his reimposition of tariffs. What is a tariff for the Democratic Party and U.S. Chamber of Commerce line is it's a tax, and you're paying for it in the current inflation. That's the bill of goods which they sold to the American people. It's a tax. That's nonsense. A tariff is protecting our native industries from the kind of crap we've experienced, where if I want to have a plant in the United States, I can't do it because the price is so low of goods coming in from other countries that I can't afford to do it. That's what tariffs are intended to compensate for. Bringing in a supply chain home, saying we're going to pay our labor a more than living wage, because we believe something different than money controls the economy. We believe, and that's what's at the heart of the American system of economics, that human creativity is what makes for economic growth, that human creativity is what we have to foster. And everything is centered on doing that through the tariff policy. But it's not understood because nobody even understands the American system of economics except for the Trump administration right now.
Okay. Yeah. It could be a lot better for us, but people are making sure that they make it worse to make it seem like it's worse. You know, I would love for the 16th Amendment to be ratified and taken out of our Constitution, where it forces the American people to pay an income tax. Yes, it forces a tax. They put an amendment in there. That's economic slavery, in my opinion. And for tariffs not to be used properly. And I know that President Trump is trying to negotiate in ways, and he was like, yeah, I can use a tariff to destroy a whole nother country and put sanctions on them. And that's not the way tariffs should be used. As she was explaining how tariffs should be used, yeah, they should be used to benefit you, not to destroy anything. So I'm going to keep going until my guest comes in. So the next video I wanted to look at is another Promethean video looking at the Lloyds of London and how their insurance actually plays out here in the US.
That Trump lowered the boom on Britain. He took direct aim at one of the oldest financial instruments of British imperial power. On Monday, March 2nd, leading ship insurers, including Lloyds of London, announced they were canceling war risk coverage for the Strait of Hormuz and adjacent waters. 1/3 of the world's oil flows through that strait. Without insurance, no tanker moves. Without tankers, the global economy starts to tremble. The Strait of Hormuz isn't just a shipping lane, it's the jugular of the global energy economy. And Lloyds of London has been the gatekeeper for 3 centuries, deciding who gets coverage and who gets shut out. Now, don't take my word for it, take theirs. When King George V laid the foundation stone of the Lloyds building back in 1925, he called it the embodiment of the highest qualities of British commerce. And he said that Lloyds services, quote, all maritime peoples who are in peace and amity with the British Empire. In peace and amity with the British Empire. Did you catch that? In other words, you get coverage if the Crown approves of you, and suddenly Lloyds is pulling insurance from a war zone. That doesn't look like risk management. That looks like a weapon. And Lloyds continues to flaunt its ties to the royals, dedicating a whole section of its website to royal moments. Not only that, Lloyds has been the enforcer of the green agenda. In 2021, then Prince Charles showed up at Lloyds to launch his Sustainable Markets Initiative Insurance Task Force, his vehicle for using the global insurance market to enforce the climate agenda on every nation on Earth. The same green agenda that Trump has been systematically dismantling. So when Lloyds pulls war risk management on the Strait of Hormuz, that is not a neutral actuarial decision. That is the Crown's financial instrument deciding who gets to move energy through the world's most critical choke point. Donald Trump broke that control yesterday when the president announced that the United States Development Finance Corporation would provide political risk insurance at very reasonable prices for all ships traveling through the Gulf, and that the Navy would escort tankers if needed. He concluded by saying the United States will ensure the free flow of energy to the world. This is big.
Yeah. Again, it's interesting. Okay. Like I said, this is Tell It All Tuesday. This is why I'm bringing you guys all this information. I know it seems like I'm just hurling things. I kind of am because I need to, because I only have so much time. But I'm trying to get you as much energy as possible. And Rudy says, green energy is garbage and is an attack on the poor. It is. It's unfortunate. And my husband and I were talking about it. It's like, a lot of times the wind turbines that people see, when they stop working, there's no way to fix them. And then there's no way to really remove them. They're just there. That's why they call them wind graveyards. So there has to be something done before more of them get put up, or demand for them to be put up, because they are not energy efficient. They actually use more energy than they outsource. And they actually have to use fossil fuels to work. Imagine that. Interesting, huh? So let's now look back at a video I wanted to put in here as well. She's talking about income tax and tariffs.
See where President Trump wants to go. Our economy has shifted over the past more than 100 years, since the time of McKinley's tariffs, from a producing economy where you had production here and the support, the service sector down here. Well, that's been completely reversed over the past 100 years, so that your overhead far outpaces your actual production. Now, until you begin to shift that substantially, I don't think you're going to be quite where we would be to durably reduce the income tax. But that is obviously where the president is headed. And he doesn't float these ideas out of the blue. He would like to do that. But I think it is going to take some numbers of years where you actually physically restructure the economy so that your production is on top, your overhead, your service sector is supporting it, as opposed to the way it is now, where your productive sector is being parasitized by the financial parasite. As long as you're in that kind of configuration, you're not quite where you would need to be to durably finance your country from the standpoint of tariffs. But the answer is, as soon as you're a healthy country, absolutely. And that is what the president wants to do.
Yeah, that's what's trying to be done. But it's messy, right? We didn't get here overnight. And so we can't expect to be out of it overnight. But people's expectations are different, right? I was like, okay, it's going to look really horrible until we get to a better place. And it's not going to be smooth. It's going to be rough. And see, it's interesting because even during COVID, and I don't know if a lot of people remember this, they were stopping people from delivering. They were like, oh no, we can't deliver the milk because you might get COVID. So they spilled all the milk in the ground. And then they were like, oh, we can't deliver vegetables. So they destroyed crops. But then it turned around and was like, okay, well, now we can get out of this. And you've already depleted resources. And you don't think it's going to be painful to get back to where we need to be? Yeah. See, it's easy to take away. It's harder to build it back. And in building it back, a lot of people, they use the Build Back Better and they see the roads getting worked on. I was like, okay, yeah, that's some of it. But what happened to the resources? And is that inflating the prices? Yeah, we have more humans here that weren't here before. They came during that time. So if you have more people and you have less resources, of course the prices are going to be higher. I mean, that's easy economics. Easy economics. So I'm going to play this last video. And in this one, she's talking about Marco Rubio. So let's see what she's got to say.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio blew the lid off of a 50-year-old conspiracy. He said that the destruction of the American economy was deliberate.
Deindustrialization was not inevitable. It was a conscious policy choice, a decades-long economic undertaking that stripped our nations of their wealth, of their productive capacity, and of their independence.
He's right. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't market forces. It was a plan written down 50 years ago, and today we're going to give you the receipts. Now, you've seen the reports about the U.S.-European face-off at Munich, how the globalists marched a lineup of failing European leaders and American has-beens and wannabes onto the stage to challenge President Trump. But even the pro-MAGA coverage of Marco Rubio's powerful speech missed the bombshell that the deindustrialization was deliberate. Now, we didn't miss it because we were there in 1977 when the Council on Foreign Relations announced their plan to do it, when they called for, quote, the controlled disintegration of the world economy, unquote. I'm Susan Kokinda, and I was part of the team that exposed that report 50 years ago. So when I heard these words come out of Marco Rubio's mouth, I knew that what we were seeing is the most significant challenge to British imperial policy in modern American history. Now, if this is a fight you want to follow, please hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons so we can stay in touch and we can expand our reach. Here's what I'm going to cover today. First, what Rubio actually said and the panicked reaction from the Europeans who were at the same conference. Second, the 1977 CFR report that laid out the deliberate destruction of sovereign economies, precisely the destruction that Marco Rubio talked about. And third, how Trumponomics is reviving real economic sovereignty. So let's start with what Secretary of State Rubio laid out at Munich.
In this delusion, we embraced a dogmatic vision of free and unfettered trade, even as some nations protected their economies and subsidized their companies to systematically undercut ours, shuttering our plants, resulting in large parts of our societies being deindustrialized, shipping millions of working and middle-class jobs overseas, and handing control of our critical supply chains to both adversaries and rivals. Deindustrialization was not inevitable. It was a conscious policy choice, a decades-long economic undertaking that stripped our nations of their wealth, of their productive capacity, and of their independence. It was a foolish but voluntary transformation of our economy that left us dependent on others for our needs and dangerously vulnerable to crisis.
Let a few of those phrases sink in. A conscious policy choice, a voluntary transformation of our economy.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are the things that I'm really trying to point out to you guys. Let's say, and Rachel Davis, making sure I'm saying that right. Rachel Davis, 852 says, look at the amount of nuke waste and dirty water that they have all over the U.S. and put into mines and quarries. They need to build up production capability that got sent out and will start to make things cost more, but wages should go up as well. And yep, foreign relations always bad for us citizens. They always put others first and try to profit from sending jobs overseas. Very well stated. Very well stated. And with that, we're going to get into some more of our Tell It All Tuesday. And we have a special guest coming back. He joined us a couple weeks ago for the Mighty Men Thursday, and it is Simeon Nollie. Here we go. Get you on the stage. Hey, how are you?
How you doing, Dr. Nichols? My apologies. I was having some technical difficulties, so I had to bring in an old school laptop to get everything back on track.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Thank you so much for joining last minute. Now, I know when I was reaching out to you, the one thing that we didn't get to talk about in your interview when we had you on last time were the data centers. And I really wanted you to share with the audience just the financial portions of it, but also the environmental repercussions that are happening, but that might be able to be avoided. So I'll let you take it from here.
Okay. Full transparency, I have not seen too many citizens that will like data centers. There's a lot of controversy surrounding that topic. The main thing you'll see is the usage resources, as it's a lot of megawatts of energy. It's also a significant amount of water that's being utilized for the cooling portions of it. I'm a chemistry major by trade. So I was proposing that we could possibly utilize hydrogen as a way to liquid hydrogen as a way to keep the data centers cool. But nevertheless, it still requires significant acreage of land that's utilized in order for these data centers to come online. The job portion of it, data centers really do not create too much jobs. And for the amount of resources, for the amount of land that is required to actually build, construct, facilitate, and use, you would expect more manpower to be mobilized to keep a significant infrastructure in place, especially if it's going to be next to the communities, next to the citizens. So data centers really promote AI. And we see what AI is currently doing to the job market. I mean, the average CEO at this moment in time technically doesn't even need an executive assistant when you have ChatGPT, right?
Right.
The average CEO technically doesn't need so much when you have it right here at the palm of your hands. So speaking full transparency to citizens and our personnel, I do understand the pushback against data centers because what is it creating besides a massive bill? What is it technically creating? It's giving more easement to executives, right? It's removing a lot of the middle class workers, their employment opportunities in their occupations. So that's technically my spill on data centers. It is significant. I know the mayor of Mableton, I know he just accepted a data center out in his area. Um, I definitely sent him a message pertaining to it because he's a Democrat. So it was about, I'm not mistaken, he's supposed to be for blue collars, right? You're supposed to be for the average working class, but nevertheless, you were promoting things and bringing in mega centers, data centers that are actually removing the same personnel that you said that you represent.
Wow.
It's controversial. It's an interesting dichotomy when you have people who say they stand on one thing, but then their vote moves to another. So it's my spell on data centers. Again, I haven't seen too many citizens that said, Simeon, please bring us more data centers. Right? I haven't seen it at all. So
Right.
that's just me. Right.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up how they can be cooled, right, with hydrogen, which may be a better solution for runoff, right, that wouldn't necessarily be poisonous to humans, because currently the runoff that is happening in South Georgia with a current data center is it's actually messing up the water. It is
Right.
really damaging the environment as we speak in real time. And to your point,
Right.
why would you want something that's not going to produce jobs, right? It's not going to produce jobs, and it's going to kill off the environment, which means the humans that are around there have to move away. So that's going to kill a city, right? Because if you can't live there, if it's not inhabitable, what happens to it?
Very true. So liquid, I'm a chemistry major by trade. So liquid hydrogen, when liquid hydrogen is coming, it's actually brought in at negative 452 degrees. When liquid hydrogen warms up, it actually, its runoff is water at its purest form. That's what it is, right? So we was utilizing liquid hydrogen as a methodology where you can actually construct any type of infrastructure, and then the runoff citizens will actually be able to drink it, right? It's an interesting dichotomy, but it can work. It's possible.
Okay.
A lot of people will say hydrogen once it's ramped up and it's warmed up, significantly it can be explosive. But that's if you're dealing with individuals who are not educated or well trained or well diverse in that field. That's what you have chemical engineers for. Those chemical engineers are able to bring forth the correct ideology and the correct infrastructure to build said type structure that will not allow such things to happen. You currently have companies that's utilizing liquid hydrogen. Praxair is doing it. Plug Power is doing it as well. And we've seen currently over in South Korea where they're using liquid hydrogen in their drones, and those drones are staying in the air for 36 hours. Significant amount of time, where in America, our drones stay in the air for maybe 30 minutes to an hour max, right? So liquid hydrogen has been shown to increase flight time in drones, increase significant power. Again, in South Korea, they're utilizing a hybrid model where they're pushing, what is it? They're doing a mixed use development, which is actually absolutely phenomenal. Smart city that they're running on windmill as well as liquid hydrogen. And they're actually powering the whole city to get their cities off of ACDC. So liquid hydrogen is actually
Where's that city at?
South Korea. It's in South Korea.
Oh, South Korea. Okay.
It's in South Korea. So liquid hydrogen has been shown across the markets to actually bring in a lot and grow a lot and be very well manageable for the environment, to get back to your point. And there's two things I like to tell you. The first thing, if you don't mind, I don't want to I want to veer off topic, right?
It's okay.
I don't look, come on now. So first thing, I reached out to the embassy as we see what's currently going on across the globe with the Iran scenarios, Iraq, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, all of these unfortunate events that are currently happening. God bless me, I reached out to the embassy because our network reaches a multitude of regions, continent of Africa, as well as in the Middle East. So I spoke with the ambassador, and I told him that we can mobilize my network that God blessed me with to move into the diplomat space to see what we can possibly do, because citizens are feared of World War III.
Okay.
So I did step away from the congressional campaign to take a position under the diplomatic corps so we can bring peace and stability to the region, and then we can move forward and take our seat. Because I don't believe a representative should believe that they can write legislation. You can't even promote peace. The president of the United States, he stopped a significant amount of wars. And that allows him, in my opinion, to be looked upon as a president. So we're not getting away from public service. We're moving in a position to where we can make sure that public service exists. So that's what we're doing. I had a great conversation with the ambassador.
Okay.
And the ambassador stated to take these positions seriously and continue to move forward with establishing global peace and come back and doing things for our citizens in the 13th district. So that's what we're currently looking at. We should more likely hear back from the ambassador pretty soon. I love politics. I love my citizens. I will always love the citizens. And I believe in a free and a fearless society.
Yes.
Where nobody have to worry about what's going to happen today or what's going to happen tomorrow, a drone strike, and things of that magnitude. So I wanted to give you that information to inform you that we are being looked upon for a diplomat position and to mobilize into this conflict and then taking care of these citizens and moving forward to being elected afterwards. I think that's a great experience.
Wow, that's awesome. That's amazing. It's like, oh, sad, but at the same time, really hopeful because of your passion for what you're doing. You're not just here for the money. Let's just be clear. You are here to get the work done. And that those are the people that we really want to throw our support behind and champion, right? Are individuals like yourself that are willing to, take that step forward, because that's definitely a leap of faith, and it takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing with your team. So I applaud you guys for it, and thank you so much for taking that on.
It was a significant. Sometimes you have to ask yourself, and this is for all citizens, for all people. We like to say things like the cards that we're dealt.
Yeah.
What does that technically mean? When you have relationships with sheiks overseas, presidents in foreign countries, and those countries are still being attacked. You run for office where you know that those citizens or those strength of your network will not be able to be utilized to their full potential? Or do you take on the call of duty to move forward with those cards that you have, with that network that you have, and promote peace and stabilization? Currently, we're seeing scenarios within our community where our people, my people, our image has also been destroyed. When you have an NBA franchise saying that they want to have strippers perform at a halftime event, showing no respect to our women.
Wow.
And my apologies for the men that decided to champion that cause. How do you change the face of our culture? How do you change the face of our community? And that face need to be changed immediately. We need to have more respect for our women. And in order for women to have more respect for our men, they will have to see that we respect them to the position that we're not begging them to humiliate themselves, degradation themselves on the world stage or any stage.
Right.
So, but that will always start with a strong family. Strong men create strong family. Traditional values, traditional marriage. And we have to, like I was telling the individuals, we have to get back to the biblical tense. I know a lot of people want to separate church and state. That's fine. But that does not mean separate yourself from your morals. And your morals is the most important thing. So when we take on this diplomacy, we want to show them what Black excellence look like. We want to show them what the Republican Party stands for. We stand for peace. We stand for promotion of family values. We stand for God at all times. So when we speak with the sheik, I did speak with him as well as the ambassador. Just let them know what we're doing. In this process, we are changing our imagery and we're promoting a very new image of what our community will look like moving forward in the future. Wow. So I'm excited about that because I want to see more strong Black men marry their women. I want to see more strong citizens. It's not just Black men, it's citizens abroad in different communities. With 300,000 women missing in the nation, that's not just a failure of government, that is a failure of community as well. And community needs to move forward, and we need to bridge these gaps, get back together, and continue to promote what true genuine love, what true genuine happiness is. When you talk about the American dream, an American dream starting in your household.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, thank you so much for being that representative and a strong representative, right? And really having that strong mindset. Because I think a lot of individuals, they go in saying things, but they are really not living it, right?
Very true.
But when you're living it, you can walk into any space and be like, yeah, this is who I am and this is what we're doing. And I'm not going to deviate from that. I'm not going to compromise that stance. And that's good. That is amazing. So thank you so much for that. And definitely thank you so much for explaining the data centers and, just the upsides and the downsides, because a lot of people, they hear like, oh yeah, we're going to go into this new area of technology. But in my opinion, a lot of the care and concern and the long term, right? That just looking at the long term plan and really looking at, okay, what is this going to look like in 5 to 10 years from now? Are we going to have a town or a city? Is it going to be polluted? Are we going to have to make changes and adjustments? And I think, they're just jumping into, yeah, let's do this, really without thinking it through and properly forecasting what it looks like down the road.
It's the investment, how much money is being invested.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at a data center, it can possibly be, it's a significant amount of money to invest into a community. But however, it still requires a significant amount of resources. To say Nvidia is bringing in a data center today, to say Google, Amazon is bringing in a data center, to say those things, that sounds like a significant investment into the municipality. And that is exciting to hear. But like you stated, what is the ramifications of said investment?
Right.
And those ramifications normally is very contradicting to the purpose of the investment.
Yeah.
Right? We're spending $500 million for this data center. And that's just the purpose of the conversation. Spend $500 million over a 10-year period to build this data center. Who are you employing?
Right.
$500 million is, I prefer to have Southern region or Norfolk Southern headquarters in my municipality in the district where they're paying high executives in my community, so the citizens don't have to drive to the city of Atlanta. They can actually be hired within a walking distance in this area, and that money, that revenue is going into the citizen salary, which is then going into this community, which is going into the school systems, which is going into the areas. I prefer to have that type of investment than you bring in a standalone investment, because that's all the data center is a standalone investment. Well, you have to bring in a standalone investment that doesn't require too much manpower, and you're going to get a tax credit to bring in said investment. That defeats
Yeah.
the purpose of said investment.
Mhm.
So it doesn't. It contradicts itself. It's an oxymoron. When you say we bringing in all of these data centers, but who are you hiring? Who are you powering? What is the purpose of said investment? Right. And
Right.
anytime you look at any investment, you have to ask yourself who is it benefiting? Because even said investment is not benefiting municipality.
Right.
It's
Right.
not.
Exactly. Especially with tax credits, I think people don't understand. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to give them that money's got to come from somewhere.
Right.
And
It has to come
citizen,
from
it's
somewhere.
going to come from you. Your taxes are going to go up either in your property taxes, your sales taxes, whatever taxes they can put in. And you may not see it like, oh, this is a little bit more expensive than it was before. It's kind of like, it looks like pennies, but those pennies add up over time. Right. And if you're not seeing the benefits, in my opinion, of that tax revenue coming from you, then why are you paying the taxes at all?
Really. Because again, it's not even going to the school systems, right? It's not doing any of that
No.
magnitude. Where it's going into is the company's taxes. It's the company, right? I'm a business owner. I have a
Yeah.
multinational investment group. I know where said taxes coming from. I know which area about it's moving to. So with that being stated, you can hoodwink the average citizen that's not necessarily following how business is benefiting. But nevertheless, you can't. It's difficult to do one to somebody that actually has their own company, right?
Yeah.
It's very difficult, which is why you see President Donald Trump told Congress, y'all need to stop insider trade. It's very difficult to track people that's in business when we understand the ins and outs of policies to business to foreign exchange. Is one yields another. So with that being stated, it's very difficult. So data centers really doesn't benefit the average citizen. It doesn't, right?
Wow.
If you can tell me, show me 20, at least 20, no, 50, let's do 50, because most citizens, most towns are hundreds of thousands of citizens. Show me 1,000 citizens. No, less than that. Show me 150 citizens in a 1 mile radius who are financially benefiting from said investment. If you can prove to me that, then I retract my statement. If you can show me 150 citizens in a 1 mile radius that benefits financially from a data center, I retract my statement. I don't have a problem with that. But you're going to be looking at for that for quite some time.
Yeah. And people don't realize it's not even there for your benefit. It's there to deplete everything from you. It's very interesting. It's almost like that movie War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, the one with Tom Cruise, where the lightning struck down to activate the aliens that had already been here, kind of underground, and then they all came up and they ate people and spit them out and then got sick, and it was crazy. But it was one of those things where they came up out of the ground to establish themselves, to deplete all of the resources, and then what was left. And that's kind of like how I see the data centers, and we're just building, this Tower of Babel to AI for what?
Oh, wow.
What is it going to really benefit anybody at the end of the day? It's very
Tower
crazy.
of Babel. How about that? That's a really good analogy. That's a good one. That's a really good. That is a really good analogy. I keep telling people when the days of Noah, and they're like, what do you mean? Like, you need to read the Bible more.
Just a little bit. But I did, before we get out of here, I wanted to ask you about the fusion energy in this recent merger with TMTG and TAE, which, it's partly Donald Trump's company. His son's on the board. but his son is not necessarily working for the company, right? He doesn't hold a position. He's just on the board. He's a voice, right?
Okay.
And then, it's got the backing of like Google and these other places, but it's fusion energy. So it's not nuclear, but it's fusion. I mean, obviously you're a chemist and you're in that sector. Can you talk to us a little bit about it and your thoughts about it?
Wow, that's a good one. That's a really good one. So fusion energy is, oh man, it's really a process of still utilizing atomic nuclei, right? And it's heavier, so it's not the same as, it's not necessarily the same as using nuclear fusion, but it is it sounds crazy, but it's definitely the same thing that can power suns and stars. So it has significant amount of atoms and electrons, right? It's like 1,000,000 degrees Celsius.
Oh wow!
So if you're utilizing something of the magnitude of fusion energy, right? It's, man, goodness.
Well, the bigger question is, can they truly deliver on commercializing it? Because that's what they're trying to do. I'm just saying. You're talking about, it's like, like right now I'm thinking about Spider-Man, the power of the sun in the palm of my hand. Like, is that really factual? Like, can we actually do that? Saying.
It's possible. It is possible. Fusion energy is significant. I mean, fusion energy, if utilized in the correct magnitude, if controlled and honed, then you can do a lot of good for it. You don't have the same amount of breakdowns, and you don't have the same amount of meltdowns that you will have with nuclear energy. It is more safer. It's still significantly and astronomical when it comes to how to deal with it, because you're still discussing splitting of atoms and molecules. If we go back to chemistry, the valence electrons, it says a way to excite atoms and isotopes is if you split the atom. You remember the little diagram? Like the atom, the hydrogen.
Right.
And then it was on the first shell, the first valence electron. It said if you split it and it gets excited, boom, that reaction, right? If you control that reaction in a significant proportion, so to speak, a significant amount of quantity splitting the atoms, that's when you talk about fusion and energy. So it is possible to hone if you hone it the correct way. It's not as dangerous as uranium. As you know, the uranium shelf life is 999,999 years. You want to know where you're gonna put it when you're complete, right?
Right.
It's very detrimental to a society and an environment, way more than data centers. So if you hone it in the correct way, it can be perfectly utilized in the correct way. It can.
Okay.
Simeon Nollie wouldn't recommend it. They call it the holy grail of energy. Right. I personally would recommend it because in order to find, Albert Einstein said, a person went to Albert Einstein and said, why would you continue to try to find electricity when you literally have failed 99 times? He said, I didn't fail 99 times. I successfully eliminated 99 ways of not doing it. So that's what he said, not verbatim. You see, and that's the problem with any type of hypothesis, any type of theory, when you're trying to change a theory into law. You have to successfully eliminate the failures. So if you're bringing in if you're bringing in fusion energy, you're first going to run into the ways of how it's not possible.
Right.
And the ways that it's not possible can be detrimental to somebody.
Okay.
If it's their life or if it's the surrounding area. right? And that's just in my perception. He probably how people way smarter than me, and in that area, but nevertheless, I still wouldn't because of the possibilities of the withdrawal, the blast back.
Okay, or
Right.
fallout or anything of that nature if it's
Right.
not secured properly.
If it's not secured properly, what
Okay.
can this do to the environment? What can this do to the citizens? Who can it hurt? Those will be my main concerns. And again, in those situations, me personally, I would literally just stick with the trial and errors of things that we currently know, like liquid hydrogen. Liquid hydrogen is truly a good way to keep energy pushing in the cities, to keep energy pushing, in the townhomes. That type of science is already proven, it's already factual, it's already being utilized across the
Right. And
world.
you said it actually produces clean water. So I'm like, okay, so then what are we doing?
Right. Other
And why
than
aren't we doing it? And if,
other
if
than
it could
trying
be
something
how should I say it, economically sound, right? Where
precisely.
energy prices are going up, it can actually be another source. Now, could hydrogen be utilized in cars and vehicles
Yeah,
possibly?
they have hydrogen cars.
Okay.
They have hydrogen cars. They have hydrogen powered cars right now. California, the Democrats already using hydrogen cars.
They're not telling us about them. Anything that's actually efficient that works, they don't tell us about it. They want to tell us about the things that are not going to work that everybody invests in, like the electric cars.
Right.
In
The
my
dangerous
opinion.
things.
The dangerous things, right? They'll be like, oh yeah, that stuff is great.
Yes.
It's not.
No, it's dangerous.
Right. You can't put the fire out and the fire will erupt, anytime, any point, because you haven't properly put it out, and you can't, because lithium isn't built that way. Once it catches on
Right.
fire, it's just gonna randomly do it whenever it feels like it. So
Anytime you refer to splitting of atoms, you refer to something that could be very unstable.
Yeah, but hey, we have a whole investment crew behind it. Yeah, and it's one of those things. Did anybody think this through, or did everybody say this is a
No.
great idea?
Marvelous idea. You want to be faster and smarter than the Chinese, but to America's defense, China is building an artificial sun, right? Called Project Tomahawk, where they're utilizing a significant amount of fusion energy, right?
Okay.
So I understand a race. If you ever get a chance, go Google Project Tomahawk Chinese sun. You're building the sun.
Oh wow.
That's crazy, by the way. So I get where America is saying we're not losing the race in technology and the race in this and the race in that. But again, while they building Project Tomahawk, I would let them, destroy their land.
Right. Don't bring that over here.
Don't bring that. Oh goodness, no.
Wow.
Let's keep my citizens safe, because things of that magnitude it's not healthy for the environment.
Right.
It's not. But if they want to do it, then they can. But Project Tomahawk is something you should look into. Okay,
I'll definitely check that out and share that with the show. But thank you so much for joining and explaining, just different things, because, I'm not a scientist. I'm more in the political realm, but I'm really grateful that you're merging the two, because a lot of, scientists, they don't always end up understanding politics and rational about it. So I definitely appreciate that about you, that you are rational about politics, and then you're merging your talents to be able to further them to help other people. So thank you so much for that. So I'll let you have last words if there's anything that we should be doing here on the show, and then I'll let you go.
Okay, so two things. I take that very candidly when you say scientist. I'm not a scientist. I just understand chemistry, right?
Okay.
And very well. But switching over from the political to the diplomat, to still promote global peace and keep the citizens safe, because again, where government disagrees, the citizens that that suffer. See, public service is not about titles. It's about impact.
Right.
And at this moment, serving as a diplomat allows God and I to protect citizens abroad, strengthen international partnerships, and represent our values on a global stage. That is where we believe we can make the most difference now in protecting citizens. And as for your show, I would love to see you at the Capitol. I'm on my way to the Capitol now.
Okay.
And interview some of these representatives, some of these elected officials. And you can tell them I was already here, and they'll want to rush and try to mute the words I stated. You know how they are, but it would be good to see you at the Capitol interviewing some of the representatives to let the citizens hear directly from the representatives and see how educated or uneducated that they are, where their purpose lies and where their purpose don't lie. A lot of them, their purpose is not with the citizens. Their purpose is with self-interest. And there are some that are with the citizens and their purpose are with doing whatever they can for people. Their heart isn't in the business.
Right.
So, but you have to find them. And I would encourage your show to go there and hear live and direct from those representatives and see exactly who are with the citizens. So those are my last words as it relates to the show. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. And
Thank you.
Can't wait to see you back on campaign trail.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again for joining us. And don't worry, I'll be calling on you again.
No worries, I'll be here.
Just to give us a little bit of follow-up to see, how things are going, with you being an ambassador. Because it's really exciting.
Well, I'm taking a diplomat position working under the ambassador. But
yes,
the good thing
but
is
working with the ambassadorship.
Yes, ma'am. While we're covering all states in the Southeast region, going abroad, but I can give you live updates as what's going on and said conflicts and things of that magnitude. So that'll be great.
That would be awesome. You have a voice here, so just let me know when.
Anytime. Thank you so much, Dr. Nichols.
All right. Have a good one.
You too now. See ya.
Yes. So I actually have to get down to the Capitol. I know I've got all these different things that I'm doing. So as you guys know, I'm working with the Georgia Black Republican Council. So I am working with members of the House and the Senate currently at the state level. So then I would have to go back and say, okay, now I'm just coming as Unfiltered Vision News, not in the capacity of the Georgia Black Republican Council. So I wear a few different hats, but that's okay. So let's take a quick break. And when we return, we should be able to get into these last two articles that I wanted to share with you guys. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the other side.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. The energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science. At longevity. At exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Take your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. One of the comments was laughing. It's like, LOL, then you show your press pass. Yeah, for real. I got one. I actually got one. But the next article that I wanted to bring you guys before we end the broadcast is about fake meat. Yes. Just a mess. Let's check this out.
I'm reading one word on meat labels that most people don't even know exists, because the next chicken breast you see might come with quite a little upgrade in wording: cell cultivated. And here's the part that nobody's ready for. You won't be seeing lab grown in big scary letters. You'll see something that sounds almost natural. So what is it? It's meat made by growing animal cells, then forming food from that material. And yes, the US regulators already made a pathway for it. The FDA literally calls this category human-made cultured animal cells. For meat and poultry, it's going to be an oversight committee of the FDA for the cell side and the USDA for the controlling of the label side. Now here's the kicker. The USDA has already approved labels like cell cultivated chicken for the first cultivated chicken products, and cultivated seafood is moving along too. Wild Type received an FDA no questions letter for cultured salmon cell material. So if you care what you're eating, here's the 5-second rule. If it says cell cultured, cultivated, cultured animal cells, that's the signal. Comment meat and I'll send you my quick cheat sheet of the exact label words to watch for, so you're not the last one to notice.
Yeah. So on top of like just messing with the energy and stuff, yeah, they want to mess with the food too. It's crazy. It's insane. Um, so I ran, YouTube through Grok, and apparently it's always just asking, if FDA mentions, in the video. I was like, okay. So the U.S. government agencies involved in overseeing this category are the FDA and the USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service. So if you see this FSIS or FIS, that's probably not how they pronounce it. It's the Food Safety and Inspection Service. Okay. So FDA's role under HHS, the FDA regulates the early pre-harvest stages, collecting cells from an animal via a tissue sample that doesn't harm or kill the animal, creating cell banks, growing, multiplying the cells in controlled environments, and differentiating them into muscle, fat, and other tissues. It ensures safety and compliance with Federal Food, Drug, and Administration and Cosmetic Act through voluntary pre-market consultations with manufacturers. The FDA reviews the production process, cell lines, inputs like nutrients, manufacturing controls, and the firm's safety data. If everything checks out, the FDA issues no further questions letter confirming it has no safety concerns at that time. I got some. I've got a few. You're just saying you're taking it from, how do we know that? We don't know that. You could be feeding us other humans. We don't know. And I'm not trying to be gross. I'm just trying to be for real. I don't trust these people. You're the same people, excuse me, guys, the same people when I was working with patients and different individuals with the IVC filter, right, that were getting injured by the mechanics of this. And they wrote a letter saying, well, we're going to adjust the product so it doesn't cause as much damage. And the FDA was like, okay, well, just get as many things off of the market as you can, and we'll just take your word for it. That's what they did. That's what they did. I am a paralegal by trade. That is what they did. I read the documents. I was like, this is crazy. Nobody's really ensuring your safety. They're just telling you that they are. You don't know. And this is the problem that I have with the FDA. So let me get off my soapbox and let me calm down, because I'm very passionate. So it ensures safety compliance with whatever. The FDA also handles full oversight for cultured products from species not under USDA rules, e.g. most seafood except catfish and game meat. So those would be like deer, you know what I'm saying? Like some people, venison, is that what they call it? Okay. Yeah, it conducts facility inspections and record reviews. Manufacturers remain primarily responsible for ensuring the food is safe and not adulterated. We still don't know that. We won't know that until maybe people get cancer or tuberculosis or something else, right? They don't know. How many people has this been tested on? Do we know? Like, what are the studies? I want to know everything. This is crazy. So, joint FDA, USDA, FSIS framework at the harvest stage, when the cultured cells are removed from the grown environment and turned into food. So basically, stuff is still in a lab being grown. Like this sounds so disgusting. Oversight transitions to USDA FSIS for livestock and poultry products. Okay. USDA FSIS then handles further processing, mandatory inspections, sanitation, hazards. Okay. So current status of the 25-26 update, several companies have completed FDA pre-market consultations successfully. First one in November of 2022, another for cultured pork and fat sales noted in March 2025. The FDA maintains a public inventory of these. Okay, now just moving on. And so I said, does the FDA have to educate or notify the public? Do they have to tell us? The answer is no. The FDA does not have a strict legal requirement to educate or proactively notify the general public about cell cultured, which is lab grown meat products, in the way some might expect, such as mandatory widespread public campaigns or alerts. However, the agency does engage in significant transparency, stakeholder communication, and public information sharing activities as part of its oversight role. Has anybody else heard about this? Until I'm telling you, right? Until I heard about it, until that other person made a video. Bueller. It's stuff like this that just, I hate to use that that term from Peter from Family Guy, grinds my gears. It just grinds my gears. So transparency in regulatory process. The FDA publishes details for voluntary pre-market consultations on its website. So I went to the website. So here it is, you guys. Human food. That's what we're down to. We're like a step above dogs right now. Okay. Human food made with cultured animal cells. That's where we're at. So it's the ability to make a small number of cells from living animals and grow them in a controlled environment to create food made from cultured animal cells in an emerging area of food science. Advancements in cell culture technology are enabling food developers to use cells obtained from livestock, poultry, seafood, or other animals in the production of food. So what are we talking about, these other animals outside of beef, chicken, pork, and seafood? What other animals are people eating? Huh? I will post the link so you guys can read through these things. I'm not trying to crash out, but my goodness. Really? This is where we're at? Okay, Maha. I know some of this stuff might have been done before you got there, but you need to get a handle on this. I'm serious. Because what is it going to be when people are dying from this? Because we don't know. And yeah, I'm being a little extreme. We don't know what's in it. We don't know what it's made of. You're just saying you're using. What other animals are people eating? Maybe deer. Okay, so we got venison. Anybody, Bueller? Just let me know what other animals are out there that people are consuming. This is crazy. Human food. Like we're some type of distinction from an alien. You would just think it would be food made with. No, it's human food. Because apparently we got people on the planet that aren't human. They're eating something. Maybe it's not human food. I don't know. It's just weird. So anyway, we're going to stop the broadcast right there. We'll be back tomorrow for Women in Wellness Wednesday. I don't have a guest tomorrow. I should have one in 2 weeks. Fingers crossed. But it will be open mic tomorrow. So if you would like to call in or, just send any questions in the comments, I'll try to make sure I do a little bit better in reading those off so we can have that dialogue and discussion and really highlight our women on Women in Wellness Wednesday and any, health issues that we need to talk about during that day that affect our women. So again, thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.